Well, look at my life now. Hatred's become a job. I had true hatred with Venture. I didn't have to fake it. That sweet loathing just poured out of me whenever I saw his pathetic face. I just wanted to kick his ass. I wanted to build a machine to kick his ass. I wanted to build an empire to house the machine to kick his ass.
And my God, let's go take a dump in his pool.
I'm not you. You don't have that natural hate.
Can you do better than a man you adore and who really needs you?
This is a night of true magic. Halloween is the night we discover who we are.
Haboo! It's a Halloween. It's the month of dressing up as all things bad for fun, but for some people this activity is how they define themselves. It's a proclamation of a kind of love, of a naked, irrational, flailing passion, and nowhere shows this best than the Venture Bros. It gives us supervillainy and the crisis of personal expression with a sense of real affection, and as we all know, there's no faking true love.
Yes! Yes! Oh! Oh! Oh!
Well, I mean, fine, yeah, good joke. Beginning way back in 2003, The Venture Bros is the brainchild of painter Doc Hammer and Jackson Chris McCulloch Public. It follows the life and times of the titular Venture family, but also the huge ensemble cast of characters they deal with. These include the many supervillains who want to crack at the famous Dr. Venture. For doing so will give them a hell of a status boost in the supervillain community. It's now just done with its 6th season, and quite honestly, fits in very comfortably with the rest of Adult Swim's sheer lunacy.
F all y'all! F all y'all! Warp speed, don't rainbow read me, nigga! Ah!
The network clearly enables them a lot of creative freedom. The duo have been very upfront with their writing process and how much they've evolved over the years. Not to put words in their mouth, they have more than enough to spare.
Young people,
yes,
hip,
and what was best about it is that they gave.
But from what we can tell, they like to play fast and loose with their narrative choices. Clearly, there are plans, but the development process is in no way set in absolute stone. They play character development by ear, they outguess their fans, and they throw in a shit ton of referential curveballs. It could feel, and probably does feel to a lot of new viewers, very sporadic. Yet shockingly, it hangs together really, really well. The reasons for this have been debated a fair bit. Obviously, the real answer is probably just down to the unique spirit and talents of the writers, but in analysing the form, people want something more specific. A theme, essentially. Even the writers have been back and forth on this one. They once claimed it was about failure, but when the fans started parroting that back to them, they began writing the show to be more about the characters' successes. Public even worries that they're wandering too far away from their adventure-based roots. It was initially meant to be based on the Jonny Quest show, after all. But in a strange way, I think the show is still fundamentally about as close to that influence as it could possibly get.
Start drinking now.
First of all, it's worth looking at the connecting tissue of the show's influences. Everything pulls from different aspects of the creator's childhood, and there's a common thread to be found. Classic comics, adventure annuals, B-movies, pop stars, action figures, cartoons. Adventure-based serials dominate the makeup of the show, but even more acutely, a lot of roleplay. Overt identities are the linchpin of the Ventureverse. A universe built on rugged practicality, rough housing and clearly defined roles, not a man's fantasy, but a boy's paradise. A never-ending game of cowboys and Indians, where the desire to be a role trumps the desire to do it well. However, these aren't boys anymore, they're men, and the unwritten consequence of that age is finally addressed. Rather than giving up, they've buried the game in bureaucracy in order to keep that form of courtship legitimized. They have rules now, regulations on who's fair game to arch. Arch! There's a whole corporate slang based around their activity now. We're also starting to see the cracks in their mental well-being come through as a result of this, on both sides of the divide. The roles they chose as young men may not reflect who they are anymore. The bureaucratic element robs the game of its spark for a lot of villains, and in a world where young boys picked out their fantasies, the women are starting to come out strange.
I'm more worried if this makes my ass look chunky.
I think the main takeaway is that this is really where our conflict arises from, the struggle between self-identification and who we really are. The idea of failure is definitely an aspect of the bigger picture here, particularly when looking at the various affiliates of the Guild of Calamitous Intent, but you have to ask exactly how the terms of failure are defined. They picked a side that was designed to lose and used it to obstruct justice for a living. Their worry isn't that they'll lose, it's that their identity might be taken away. They'll become as boring as the rest of us. That's a very sympathetic, funny concept. Card-carrying villains are accused of being one-dimensional, but you have to consider the choice involved with making the decision to be known as such to begin with. One character in particular epitomizes the extreme of this tragic aspect, and in many ways, it's been driving a lot of the dramatic momentum of the show since day one.
Now give us the king or the plans or whatever the hell you have.
I have a tank full of gentle cuttlefish.
Give us the cuttlefish. Cuddle. I can't do this.
Oh, you were so close, sweetie. Just pretend he's Dr. Venture.
Give me that gun. You abandoned me! You abandoned my hatred!
I have cuttlefish.
Look into my eyes!
Now I think it makes total sense that Season 6 would place the Monarch as a key protagonist, because he and his baggage relate to the theme of identity most strongly. His development has been pivotal to the show's evolution, but it was also often scattershot in its plotting. He was a starring role, but it was never exclusively his story. His taking centre stage feels inevitable, and honestly, seems to deal with a crisis of self-awareness that's been snowballing for a while.
Now you're trying to make me out to be the bad guy!
Yes, I'm trying to make you a bad guy. We're both bad guys. We're professional bad guys. Ding! Hello!
To understand how much the Monarch's lack of self-awareness protected him, you really have to look at what he achieved and then lost in his unexplained hatred of Dr. Venture. He got himself through college after being raised by butterflies. He defied the largest organisation of villainy and one of its ruling elite by striking out on his own. He got himself a partner and eventually got married, in what may be one of the most loving relationships on the show, depending on your point of view.
Hot damn it, those things are beautiful!
He built himself an empire from the ground up. It's easy to forget how successful he was thanks to all the bumbling and kvetching we know him so well for. The question becomes then, is it the Monarch that makes the Arch, or the Arch that makes the Monarch? Season 6 covers this in spades.
You gotta separate your work from your life. It's a slippery slope once you start living as your character.
Earlier in this episode, Monarch complains about having to ditch his Monarch persona in order to secretly arch Venture.
I'm a villain! I shower in this cowl. I laugh at regular jokes like this. I'm a super villain. My dad wasn't.
Fast forward to a successful mission, suddenly he's whining about his old costume's fit.
Where's my Morpho suit? Can't say I missed this crown. Stupid thing is always falling off.
The seesaw of life being down on the Monarch's side means he's finally able to reflect on why he does what he does. He's moving into new territory because it reflects what he's probably always been deep down. Now compare that to an aging, crumbling guild that's struggling with the bullshit it was left with, while scrambling for some sense of recognisable power. They could do an excellent job, but they're still uncomfortable within themselves. These characters often rejected their impulses to their detriment, and it's been a sticking point with the guild in general.
Who are you really?
Just some bloke who wanted to be anyone but himself.
This enables the authority of new players they've added to the game. Wide Whale and his cronies work as a roadblock for the Monarch because they embrace classic villainy without rocking the boat. They cheat, they lie, they manipulate, they never forget, and they get away with it all. It makes them a perfect bully for an earnest Monarch torn between his passion and his responsibilities. You can start to see why he's never truly been at home with these people. The freedom to pursue his hatred openly is what gives him his lust for life, no matter the persona. He's a passionate individual with a clear narrative struggle, and his self-destructiveness comes from something really relatable and, dare I say it, decent. Did Killinger bar the Monarch from entry because he was incompetent? Or because this isn't where his potential lies?
I am not a good guy, period.
Of course, the Monarch isn't the only one undergoing an identity crisis, he's just going about it very loudly. The Monarch's a great character, but while he's a bad guy by trade, he's not technically an antagonist. So who does that leave? Well, we have a few options, but one in particular stands out. Bingo! See, I hadn't forgotten. Rusty Venture expects to be the good guy in all of this. The normal one, the reasonable one. And it's like, you know, justified. He was shackled to the adventure game by birthright, and experienced the very worst of that childish lifestyle. He's long outgrown the entire experience, and imagines that would absolve him of any accountability. Instead, it's made him a monster.
Did I ever tell you about your mother? Or that you're both clones? It'll take that no-way Nancy and turn her into a yes-I candy.
So it's like a roofie.
Don't cheapen it.
He's lazy, he's selfish, he's an awful role model, and all of his goals involve personal gain. He probably wouldn't even enjoy them if he succeeded. Even having sex for Rusty now would be painful, or downright confusing. It's not that he's actively horrible, sometimes, but that his negligence and expectation of what reality owes him is what makes him the master catalyst for other people's misery. That kind of apathy can only remain unchallenged for so long.
Isn't it perfect? It's a classic Cain and Abel story.
Well, but he can't arch me. He's not even a super... Oh my God. This is... But I'm not a...
Aren't you? Is this not what your heart was trying to tell you in your visions? Sign it! Make your blood feud official! Act now! Henchmen are standing by for your order!
His apathy in many ways makes him worse than the villains he deals with, but we're not unsympathetic to his miserable cynicism. We laugh at it a lot, sure. He's also in a new chapter of his life, and that can't go deeply unexplored for too long, especially not on this show. Eventually we'll have to shift focus back to his point of view, and see how a Rich Rusty feels when he's not trying to murder a better version of himself with a rock.
Take it easy. You just sip it, mister, and keep to your own dimension from now on. Fine, I don't even like your dimension anyway. It's an asshole dimension. How do you like that? Oh, nice potty mouth in front of the boys.
And this is what the show is really all about, and what Arching has always been about. Two people who tell the world they embody one thing, which often means there's something else entirely. They take the most extreme ends of the spectrum to help inform the thematic basis of the rest of the cast, whose evolving identities as the show goes on tells us a lot about what their real qualities may be. It's a very true observation, and I think it speaks to how people actually deal with projection. Our actions have always spoken louder than our words, and what occasion calls for that more than the costumed antics of Halloween?
Do you see it now? We use this one enchanted night to perform the greatest feat of magic there is. We become ourselves. Halloween is the true magic. It is the night we discover who we really are. They smell my cat.
God, I like being tortured more than this here. This is... Ugh.
The thing that continues to surprise me about the Venture Bros is just how well it all comes together. In messing around with their influences and what they find funny, they've created something that's become its own unique discussion on the concept of persona in modern storytelling. It validates the cliches of costumes and arch-villainy. It's too fascinating to let go of. I mean, what would drive a person to put themselves out there so boldly, so obviously? A very passionate feeling indeed. And if you're gonna go down in flames, might as well be over something you really care about. Now I can't say I've cracked the nut on this one because it's likely Season 7 will bring a whole new light to the story. They like to be ahead of all of us, and before long we'll see just how much that's true. And who knows, maybe it'll come out this time before I'm fucking dead.
Hi everyone, first of all a huge thank you to my good friend Katie for helping put the intro together. The work she did was pretty amazing, so give that girl a follow. The soundtrack you heard is from the show, and you can support the composer J.G. Thirlwell by buying the album at any one of these links right here. That's about all I've got time for today. I'll see you guys later, and happy Halloween. Bye.
Two heads are better than one.
What does that have to do with anything?
Nothing. I was wanting to say that all day. I got sick of waiting for an opportunity.